And we're continuing with the 6th chapter of Silver on the Tree by Susan Cooper, which is called The Bearded Lake. They have walked up, the Drew children, Bran and Will, to Panorama Walk, and have been disturbed by cars, but very disturbed by a couple of red polecats. And both Jane and Barney are having very strange feelings. Jane is very resentful of Bran, and Barney is having kind of a predestination kind of deja vu. And let's continue from the paragraph gap. The rain began soon afterward, a gentle, persistent rain from the low gray clouds that had been growing steadily larger and had begun to merge now into a covering over all the broad sky. They pulled anoraks and raincoats from the rucksacks and went doggedly on along the high moorland road. Between open grassy slopes with no shelter anywhere, one by one cars came back down. The road passed them. Round one last bend, the paved road ended at an iron gate, and a foot-worn earthen track went on instead, past a lone white farmhouse and away over the mountain. 5 cars were packed tipsily on the grass before the gate. Back down the mountain came a straggle of damp holiday makers with drooping headscarves and complaining children. "There's one thing to be said for rain," Barney said. "It does wash the people away." Simon glanced back. "Gloomy-looking lot, aren't they? Those 2 kids from the blue car are still thumping one another. I suppose anyone would look gloomy with brats like that." "You aren't long out of the brat stage yourself, chummy." Barney opened and shut his mouth, hunting the right insult, but then glanced at Jane instead. She stood silent, unsmiling, gazing at nothing. "You aren't still feeling odd, Jane?" Simon peered at her. "Look at them," Jane said in a strange, small, tight voice. She pointed ahead at Will and Bran, tugging one after the other up the track through the grass, 2 matching figures in oilskins, rather too big for them, distinguishable only by Bran's cap and the sou'wester pulled low over Will's head. "Look at them," Jane said again miserably. "It's all mad. Who are they? Where are they going? Why are we doing what they want to do? How do we know what's going to happen?" "We don't," Barney said. "But then we never have we?" "We ought not to be here," Jane said. Impatiently, she tugged the hood of her anorak closer over her head. "It's all too vague, and it doesn't feel right, and—" The last words burst out defiantly. "I'm scared!" Barney blinked at her out of the folds of an enveloping plastic mackintosh. "But, Jane, it's all right. It must be. Anything to do with Great Uncle Merry." "But Gummery isn't here!" "No, he's not," Simon said, "but Will's here, and that's just about the same." Surprise sang through Jane's head. She stared at him. "But you never liked Will? Not really? I mean, I know you never said anything, but there was always—" She stopped. Firm ground seemed to have become suddenly shaky. Simon was now so much bigger than she, as well as being almost a year older, that somehow she had imperceptibly begun to take him more seriously than before, paying attention to his opinions and prejudices, even when she disagreed with him herself. It was unnerving to find one of those opinions turning itself upside down. "Look," Simon said, "I don't pretend to understand anything that's ever happened with Great Uncle Merry and Will. But there's not much point in trying, is there? I mean, basically, it's very simple. It's a matter of, well, there's a good side and a bad, and those 2 are absolutely, without question, the good side." "But of course," Jane said pettishly. "Well then, where's the problem?" "It's not a problem. It's that Bran. It's just—" "Oh dear, you wouldn't understand." Jane poked dolefully at a tuft of grass. "They're waiting for us," Barney said. High up on the path beyond the farmhouse, beside another gate, the 2 small figures stood, turned, looking back. "Come on, Jane," said Simon. He patted her tentatively on the back. Barney said in a sudden rush of discovery, "You know, if you're really scared, it isn't like you. You ought to think whether you're being—" He flapped one hand vaguely. "Got at." "Got at?" Jane said. "The dark," Barney said. "Remember the way it makes something wiggle in your mind and say, 'I don't want you, go away'? Makes you feel something terrible is going to happen." "Yes," Jane said. "Oh, yes, I do remember." Barney hopped in front of her, like some small, fierce animal. Well, if you fight it, it can't get hold. Push it off, run away from it. He grabbed her sleeve. Come on, race you up the hill. Jane tried to smile. All right. They rushed up the path to the winding figures on the hill. Raindrops scattered from their coats as they ran. Simon followed more slowly. He had been listening with only half his attention. The rest had been caught, while Barney spoke, by two sinuous red animals slinking into the bracken from a thicket of gorse. And then, out of the gorse, if he had not been imagining it, two bright pairs of eyes watching them. But it seemed a bad moment to mention that to Jane. And we'll pause there.